So one day, I was surfing on the internet for some D&D stuff, as you do when you're a big old D&D nerd like me. Laughing at memes. Staring at expensive dices that I don't have the money for, but my inner dice goblin wants them very badly. Plotting to scar my players. And on my journey, I found a blog talking about playing characters with mental health issues. And me being a person who advocates for positive mental health, I checked it out. And for the most part, I liked it. Except for one thing. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Dice&Asperger's and I tell stories on the internet. And I have a lot of mental health stuff. I have anxiety, depression, and I'm also on the spectrum. Which is kinda obvious if you look at my username and stuff, and because I talk about it sometimes and everything. Yeah. So, mental health in Dungeons & Dragons or any tabletop RPG has always had kind of a interesting relationship with one another. With it being such a great tool to express oneself and being able to have escapism in it, it's a pretty good tool. In fact, there's been a lot of articles talking about the positive effects of the game it has on players, and that some therapists and studies have actually used it as a means of tool to help out people work on things. But that's a video for another time. If you guys want to hear me talk about that, let me know in the comments below. So in the blog that started this conversation today, it talked about how to play a character with mental health issues. And a lot of the stuff I agreed in it, like be respectful, talk to your DM, do your research, be kind and considerate, and treat the character like a human being. Something that most media still don't know how to do to this very day. But what sparked today's video came in further into the blog when they started giving out examples of some mental health issues and kind of giving out a general description about it. They also provided how to use them in your game and ability score suggestions for that character for that specific mental health disability. Yeah. This is the part where I disagreed with. Because it gives off the impression that people with mental health issues aren't very wise, smart, strong, charming, which isn't true at all. People with anxiety and depression can be extremely wise. People on the spectrum can be very charming. And you kind of have to be when you have a mask on every day for every social situation you're in, because social interaction gives you so much anxiety, but you cannot let anyone know that you're anxious or anything, and I'm not having a crisis here. No, it's all good. It's fine. I'm toasty. I'm chill. I'm so chill. Even mainstream D&D shows get this right, like take Adine from Dimension 20. She's a character played by Soyban Thompson. If you look at her character sheet, you can see that all her stats are pretty good. But she still has issues with anxiety, and you can see that happen in game. Sometimes, in certain situations, they can trigger her anxiety. And when she rolls a wisdom save for it, sometimes she passes, and sometimes she fails. She gets overwhelmed because of what's happening around her, and not because of her ability score. Another example of this is Caleb Widogast from Critical Role, played by Liam O'Brien, and oh my god, this hobo can fit so much PTSD in their fragile small little D6 body. Certain things and events can trigger him, and he has to roll to see if he can beat the DC. And sometimes he does. And sometimes he doesn't. And when that happens, he just shuts down for a while. If you check out Caleb's character sheet, you can see that he's got pretty good stats all around. Even the first session of the second campaign, his ability scores were good. Yet, he still had issues with his mental health. Essentially what I'm getting at is that you don't need certain ability scores to go in certain places to play a character with mental health issues. You can still be incredibly smart, fantastically wise, remarkably charismatic, big, strong boy energy, and exercise a gymnastic and still have issues with anxiety, depression, or any kind of spectrum on the mental health disorders. So what if you're a player that has a character that has mental health issues? What do you do? Well, those same things that we talked about in the beginning of the video still apply here. Number 1, do your research. There's a lot of good information on the internet with articles, research, and videos made by people who have mental health issues and want to share correct and positive information around the world with people. If you know anyone personal that has some mental health issues, talk to them, get some advice on how to portray it and everything. But please remember to be respectful on the topic. For some, it can be a very sensitive conversation and it can trigger them, so you really want to be considerate when talking about it. Number 2, talk with your DM and figure out how to incorporate it in your game. The general template for a DC with like anxiety for a panic attack is somewhere between about 10 to 13. This is a perfect middle ground because you can still beat the DC, but you can still miss it if you roll bad. And I've seen this used in plenty of games that I've been in, and I use it in my games as well. Because just like in real life, you have good days and you have bad days. But you can still make it through those bad days because you have tools that can help you out. Number 3, establish a veil with the people at your table. Having something like this in your game can be very strenuous for your DM, your players, and yourself. You want to be able to establish a boundary so that way when things get too real, you can protect yourself and still have fun at the table. Because mental well-being comes first. Finally, number 4, treat them like human beings. With most media being very much a visual tool, sometimes it can be kind of hard to kind of display some of those things because mental health doesn't really have a exterior presence. So the thought process of doing something that makes it a little bit more visually noticeable to help show might be easier to kind of show it to the audience and people around. But doing so can make a character devoid of all personality. What makes them them, their likes, their dislikes, what they do in certain situations. They essentially become a walking definition of that mental health disability, and it can be a harmful representation of it. Because a human being is not defined by their mental health issue, nor are the ability scores in their stats sheet. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Leave your opinions in the comments below. If you like what you see, please leave a like and share it around with your friends. And if you want to see more of my lovely face, then please ring the bell and subscribe because that helps out a lot. Follow me on my socials, check out my Wattpad where I write sad D&D stories, and check out the book I co-wrote in the description below. Special shout out to Crystal Oldman, Azur, Ala Kaverwin, Bobby Joe Casto, Tabitha Elizabeth Allison Trammell, Tanisha Kanita, and Isabel Rakhimov. And if you want to see your name shouted out at the end of these videos or any short story I write, then please become a $1 member of my Patreon. Also, there's a $5 tier where you get to help me decide what happens in exclusive short stories I write on Patreon in voting pools. And you get access to D&D one-shots that I've written for 5th edition that you can use in your games. So yeah, please become a member of my Patreon. It helps out a lot in making the channel better so I can provide you guys with the content that you guys deserve. But yeah, that's about it on my end. Thank you all so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you are all doing well. Please be safe. And remember, please be kind to yourself. Bye.